A few weeks ago I did a review of the new, old Bachmann four-wheel tank wagons, and like many of you I was not overly surprised that the price has gone sky high. So I thought it'd be a nice challenge to see if we can turn an old Hornby tank wagon into something a little bit more respectable, realistic, and for less than half the price of a brand new Bachmann wagon. I'll do a rundown of the costs later, and they'll also be in the description below, along with all of the sundry parts that I've used and where I've got them from. The Hornby tank wagon has got far too many inaccuracies for me to be able to do a specific type of vehicle. So I'll take my rivet counter's hat off for this one and say that we're going to produce a reasonable representation of the generic 45-ton oil tanker. We won't be doing anything that's overly difficult, but there are a couple of tools that maybe are essential. It's one of those ones where you don't actually need them, but it's just a little bit more difficult to do without, so to speak. There's also a few steps that are probably optional extras, like you've just seen me cut the couplings off. That would save you an extra 50p or so a wagon. And I say per wagon because I've got 8 of these on the go, and we'll do 3 different types. I'll explain as we go along. With it all stripped down, we'll start on the chassis. We've done a little bit already, and I did start drilling out the axle box holes from the inside, but I found it much easier to do from the outside, especially on this generic Hornby chassis that's pretty much got a guide hole for you to drill through anyway. It should be a 1.9mm drill, so there's enough friction to keep the flangeless brass bearing cup in place. Inserting the brass bearing cup, it needs to be just flush with the rest of the plastic, and then we insert a set of wheels and squeeze gently until they run freely without any slop. If they've got a little bit of slop in them, you can just poke the brass bearing cup back in and then start over. Once you've got it in the correct place, the key is then to keep it in place by putting a little bit of filler in the axle box hole, and then it will never move. Before we do any more destruction, we'll do a little bit of construction. We've got a bit of 2mm evergreen styrene rod that we'll place between the filler caps, and then while we had the 2mm drill drilling out the buffer shanks, we'll put that straight through the bottom and then put a sort of outflow pipe from the tank, and that will keep everything a bit more solid while we'll cut some bits off in a minute. So this chassis being generic again, it's the same on both sides, which it shouldn't be, because what we're looking at here I think is a representation of the brake compensation arrangement. I think I did explain it in the vacuum brake coal wagon video that I did, the 20. If I remember, I'll leave a link in the corner. And it only needs to be on one side, so on the other side we can just snip it out and remove it. And with a little bit of filing, you'd never know it wasn't there. Because the era that I model allows me to, I'm going to make 5 of these into air-braked vacuum through pipe, which would make them tops coat TTB, and the remaining 3 into vacuum breakers, which would make them tops coat TTV. We'll have a go at the air-braked one first, and we'll make some representations of the air brake equipment. This being the main res air tank, crafted from a piece of styrene rod tube and some offcuts of plasticard. Then we'll drill another hole in the floor, poke another piece of 2mm styrene rod through it, a couple of millimeters, and then attach some pipes on the top and a handle on the bottom, and that will be our distributor. With the air brake equipment complete on the air brake versions, it was time to turn my attention to the vacuum braked ones. Although looking at that bar under tension, maybe I should have focused my attention elsewhere. On the other hand, it's probably the only chance I'll have of somebody telling me that my rod is too big. The vacuum brake cylinders were built in much the same way as the air brake cylinders. A piece of styrene tube and a bit of styrene rod, a couple of bits of scrap material for the linkages, and it looks okay. A fair representation of a vacuum cylinder. As successful as this Hornby chassis is because of its simplicity and one-piece moulding, it does have the flaws of not being highly detailed. I mean is the brake blocks are on the same moulding as the side frames, which means they don't line up with the wheels. Now I started snipping them off and chucking them in the bin, and I was going to use replacements from parts of other kits. Then I realised I was doing a sort of a budget challenge, and I went back into the bin, picked them out and started cutting them up. Now this next process is fiddly and time consuming, so if you're planning on doing this, this is one of those bits that I'm going to say is optional. With our little razor saw, I'm going to cut halfway through it and then snip the back off to create an angle. Then I'm going to get a piece of styrene rod, and yes, I know it should be square and not round, but it will become obvious why I'm using round and not square in a moment. When I started doing this, I realised that there's only printed detail on one side, which means they all end up being handed. Now I built 2 or 3, but ended up with all left-handed ones. The easy way to overcome that is to glue 2 onto each end of a piece of rod, and then you've definitely got a left and a right. With a small drill that's exactly the same size as the piece of rod that we've just attached to the brake blocks, we put it on the tread of the new wheel set that we've installed, and then drill straight down, and then we can pop the rod that's attached to the brake block into that hole, and making sure that the wheels still turn freely, we can glue it up. And just because I'm here doing it, I added an extra connecting rod between the 2 brake slides. It's not 100% accurate, but in my view it's a reasonable representation of what you can see from the outside. It just makes the underframe look a little bit more busy. At the beginning you saw me chop the buffers off, so it's probably time to stick some new ones on. 16-inch buffer heads, 2-foot long shanks. I think some of these wagons had the shorter version, but not many. These ones are from 51L, available from Wizard Models. I think other companies do them, but I think these are the cheapest ones. After a little bit of clean-up, I glued them in with some araldite, or whatever it's called these days, and that takes 5 minutes to set, which is why they stand on end, so until the glue sets, stops them moving about. Last bit of construction is to snip off a bit of sprue from an old kit and ram that into the hole that the coupling came out of. That should give us something to screw into when we attach the coupling, but that will be in the next episode when I do a final assembly. If you're new here, which I suspect quite a few of you are, as I've been watching the subscription figures go up at an alarming rate just recently, it's nice and all, but terrifying at the same time. I'll refer back to, I can't remember which video I showed it in, where I showed the clip of Homer Simpson and they're all gathered around him, and I think it's Lenny that says, "Look everybody, he's about to do something stupid." Well, that's how it makes me feel, sometimes. I've digressed and got away from the point that I was going to make, which was at this stage we normally go to the spray booth and apply the first coat of paint, which is not black. It's Revel number 9. So to put it into context for those of you that are new, I think that black is such a harsh colour, and it takes a lot of toning down when we come to the weathering processes later. So if we can tone it down before we actually put it on, makes it a lot easier, in my view.
I really wanted to make this a one-piece video, but we're 10 minutes in and we haven't even started on the tanks yet. So I've decided to make it into 2, possibly 3 parts. Next time we'll look at the tank bodies, the walkways, the ladders, and a final assembly. I'll also do the cost analysis in the next video as well. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.